An important but subtle point is that even though we practice, we continue to fall for pleasant feelings because feelings are illusory on many levels. We don't realize that they're changeable and unreliable. Instead of offering pleasure, they offer us nothing but stress, and yet we're still addicted to them. This business of feeling is thus a very subtle matter. Please try to contemplate it carefully, this business of latching onto feelings of pleasure, pain, or equanimity. You have to contemplate so as to see it clearly, and you have to experiment more than what you may want to with pain. When there are feelings of physical pain or mental distress, the mind will struggle because it doesn't like pain. But when pain turns to pleasure, the mind likes it and is content with it, so it keeps on playing with feeling. Even though, as we've already said, feeling is inconstant, stressful, and not really ours. But the mind doesn't see this. All it sees are feelings of pleasure, and it wants them. Try looking into how feeling gives rise to craving. It's because we want pleasant feeling that craving whispers right there at the feeling. If you observe carefully, you'll see that this is very, very important. For this is where the paths and fruitions leading to Nibbana are attained, right here at feeling and craving. If we can extinguish the craving and feeling, that's Nibbana. In the Solasapanha, the Buddha said that defilement is like a wide and deep flood. But he then went on to summarize the practice to cross it simply as abandoning craving in every action. Now, right here at feeling is where we can practice to abandon craving. For the way we relish the flavor of feeling has many ramifications. This is where many of us get deceived because we don't see feeling as inconstant. We want it to be constant. We want pleasant feelings to be constant. As for pain, we don't want it to be constant, but no matter how much we try to push it away, we still latch on to it. So this is why we have to focus on feeling so that we can abandon craving right there in the feeling. If you don't focus here, the other paths you may follow will simply proliferate. So bring the practice close to home. When the mind changes, or when it gains a sense of stillness or calm that would rank as a feeling of pleasure or equanimity, try to see in what ways the pleasure or equanimity is inconstant, that it's not you or yours. When you can do this, you'll stop relishing that particular feeling. You can stop right there, right where the mind relishes the flavor of feeling and gives rise to craving. This is why the mind has to be fully aware of itself all around at all times in its focused contemplation to see feeling as empty of self. Now, this business of liking and disliking feelings is a disease hard to detect because our intoxication with feelings is so very strong. Even with the sensations of peace and emptiness in the mind, we're still infatuated with feeling. Feelings on the crude level, the violent and stressful ones that come with defilement, they're easy to detect. But when the mind grows still, steady, cool, bright, and so on, we're still addicted to feeling. We want these feelings of pleasure and equanimity. We enjoy them. Even on the level of firm concentration or meditative absorption, there's attachment to the feeling. This is the subtle magnetic pull of craving, which paints and plasters things over. This painting and plastering is hard to detect because craving is always whispering inside of us. I want nothing but pleasant feelings. This is very important, for this virus of craving is what makes us continue to be reborn. So explore to see how craving paints and plasters things, how it causes desires to form, the desires to get this or take that, and what sort of flavor it has that makes you so addicted to it, that makes it hard for you to pull away. You have to contemplate to see how craving fastens the mind so firmly to feelings that you never weary of sensuality or of pleasant feelings, no matter what the level. If you don't contemplate so as to see clearly that the mind is stuck right here at feeling and craving, it will keep you from gaining release. We're stuck on feeling like a monkey stuck in a tar trap. They take a glob of tar and put it where a monkey will get its hands stuck in it. And in trying to pull free, the monkey gets its other hand, both feet, and finally its mouth stuck too. Consider this. Whatever we do, we end up stuck right here at feeling and craving. We can't separate them out. We can't wash them off. If we don't grow weary of craving, we're like a monkey stuck in the glob of tar, getting ourselves more and more trapped all the time. So if we're intent on freeing ourselves in the footsteps of the Arahants, we have to focus specifically on feeling until we can succeed at freeing ourselves from it. Even with painful feelings, we have to practice. For if we're afraid of pain and always try to change it to pleasure, we'll end up even more ignorant than before. This is why we have to be brave in experimenting with pain, both physical pain and mental distress. When it arises in full measure like a house on fire, can we let go of it? We have to know both sides of feeling. When it's hot and burning, how can we deal with it? When it's cool and refreshing, how can we see through it? We have to make an effort to focus on both sides, contemplating until we know how to let go. Otherwise, we won't know anything, for all we want is the cool side. The cooler, the better. And when this is the case, how can we expect to gain release from the cycle of rebirth? Nibbana is the extinguishing of craving, and yet we like to stay with craving. So how can we expect to get anywhere at all? We'll stay right here in the world, right here with stress and suffering. For craving is a sticky sap. If there's no craving, there's nothing, no stress, no rebirth. But we have to watch out for it. It's a sticky sap, a glob of tar, a dye that's hard to wash out. So don't let yourself get carried away with feeling. The crucial part of the practice lies here. In making yourself quiet, you have to be quiet on all fronts. Quiet in your deeds, quiet in your words, quiet in your mind. Only then will you be able to contemplate what's going on inside yourself. If you aren't quiet, you'll become involved in external affairs and end up having too much to do and too much to say. This will keep your awareness or mindfulness from holding steady and firm. You have to stop doing, saying, or thinking anything that isn't necessary. That way your mindfulness will be able to develop continuously. Don't let yourself get involved in too many outside things. In training your mindfulness to be continuous so that it will enable you to contemplate yourself, you have to be observant. When there's sensory contact, can the mind stay continuously undisturbed and at normalcy? or does it still run out into liking and disliking? Being observant in this way will enable you to read yourself, to know yourself. If mindfulness is firmly established, the mind won't waver. If it's not yet firm, the mind will waver in the form of liking and disliking. You have to be wary of even the slightest wavering. Don't let yourself think that the slight waverings are unimportant, or else they'll become habitual. Being uncomplacent means that you have to watch out for the details, the little things, the tiny flaws that arise in the mind. If you can do this, you'll be able to keep your mind protected, better than giving all your attention to worthless affairs of the outside world. So really try to be careful. Don't get entangled in sensory contact. This is something you have to work at mastering. If you focus yourself exclusively in the area of the mind like this, you'll be able to contemplate feelings in all of their details. You'll be able to see them clearly, to let them go. So focus your practice right at feelings of pleasure, pain, and neither pleasure nor pain. Contemplate how to leave them alone, simply as feelings without relishing them. For if you relish feelings, that's craving. Desires for this and that will seep in and influence the mind so that it gets carried away with inner and outer feelings. This is why you have to be quiet. Quiet in a way that doesn't let the mind become attached to the flavors of feelings. Quiet in a way that uproots their influence. The desire for pleasure is like a virus, deep in our character. What we're doing here is trying to make the mind stop taking pleasant feelings into itself and stop pushing painful feelings away. It's because we're addicted to taking in pleasant feelings that we dislike painful feelings and push them away. So don't let the mind love pleasure and resist pain. Let it be undisturbed by both. Give it a try. If the mind can let go of feelings so that it's above pleasure, pain, and indifference, that means it's not stuck on feeling. And then try to observe, how can it stay unaffected by feelings? This is something you have to work at mastering in order to release your grasp on feelings once and for all, so that you won't latch on to physical pain or mental distress as being you or yours. If you don't release your grasp on feeling, you'll stay attached to it, both in its physical and in its mental forms. If there's the pleasure of physical ease, you'll be attracted to it. As for the purely mental feeling of pleasure, that's something you really want, you really love. And then you'll be attracted to the mental perceptions and labels that accompany the pleasure, the thought fabrications, and even the consciousness that accompany the pleasure. You'll latch on to all of these things as you or yours. So analyze physical and mental pleasure. Take them apart to contemplate how to let them go. Don't fool yourself into relishing them. As for pain, don't push it away. Let pain simply be pain. Let pleasure simply be pleasure. Let them simply fall into the category of feelings. Don't go thinking that you feel pleasure, that you feel pain. If you can let go of feeling in this way, you'll be able to gain release from suffering and stress because you'll be above and beyond feeling. This way, when aging, illness, and death come, you won't latch on to them thinking that you are aging, that you are ill, that you are dying. You'll be able to release these things from your grasp. If you can contemplate purely in these terms, that the 5 aggregates are inconstant, stressful, and not self, you won't enter into them and latch onto them as me or mine. If you don't analyze them in this way, you'll be trapped in dying. Even your bones, skin, flesh, and so forth will become mine. This is why we're taught to contemplate death, so that we can make ourselves aware that death doesn't mean that we die. We have to contemplate until you really know this. Otherwise, you'll stay trapped right there. You must make yourself sensitive in a way that sees clearly how your bones, flesh, and skin are empty of any self. That way, you won't latch on to them. The fact that you still latch on to them shows that you haven't really seen into their inconstancy, stress, and not-selfness. When you see the bones of animals, they don't have much meaning. But when you see the bones of people, your perception labels them. That's a person's skull. That's a person's skeleton. If there are a lot of them, they can really scare you. When you see the picture of a skeleton or of anything that shows the inconstancy and not-selfness of the body, if you don't see clear through it, you'll get stuck at the level of skeleton and bones. Actually, there are no bones at all. They're empty, nothing but elements. You have to penetrate into the bones so that they're elements. Otherwise, you'll get stuck at the level of skeleton. And since you haven't seen through it, it can make you distressed and upset. This shows that you haven't penetrated into the Dhamma. You're stuck at the outer shell because you haven't analyzed things into their elements. When days and nights pass by, they're not the only things that pass by. The body constantly decays and falls apart too. The body decays bit by bit, but we don't realize it. Only after it's decayed a lot, when the hair has gone gray and the teeth fall out, do we realize that it's old. This is knowledge on a crude and really blatant level. But as for the gradual decaying that goes on quietly inside, we aren't aware of it. As a result, we cling to the body as being us, every single part of it. Its eyes are our eyes. The sights they see are the things we see. The sensation of seeing is something we sense. We don't see these things as elements. Actually, the element of vision and the element of form make contact. The awareness of the contact is the element of consciousness, the mental phenomenon that senses sights, sounds, smells, tastes, and tactile sensations and all. This we don't realize, which is why we latch on to everything, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, intellect, as being us or ours. And then, when the body decays, we feel that we are growing old. When it dies and mental phenomena stop, we feel that we die. Once you've taken the elements apart, though, there's nothing. These things lose their meaning on their own. They're simply physical and mental elements without any illness or death. If you don't penetrate into things this way, you stay deluded and blind. For instance, when we chant, Jara Damanhi, I am subject to death, that's simply to make us mindful and uncomplacent in the beginning stages of the practice. When you reach the stage of insight meditation, though, there's none of that. All assumptions, all conventional truths get ripped away. They all collapse. When the body is empty of self, what is there to latch onto? Physical elements, mental elements, they're already empty of any self. So you have to see this clearly all the way through. Otherwise, they gather together and form a being, both physical and mental. And then we latch on to them as being ourself. Once we see the world as elements, however, there's no death. And once we can see that there's no death, that's when we'll really know. If we still see that we die, that shows that we haven't yet seen the Dhamma. We're still stuck on the outer shell, and when this is the case, what sort of Dhamma can we expect to know? We have to penetrate deeper in. You have to contemplate, taking things apart. You're almost at the end of your lease in this burning house, and yet you continue latching onto it as yourself. It tricks you into feeling fear and love. And when you fall for it, what path will you practice? The mind latches onto these things to fool itself on many, many levels. You can't see through even these conventions, so you grasp hold of them as yourself, as a woman, a man, and you really turn yourself into these things. If you can't contemplate so as to empty yourself of these conventions and assumptions, your practice simply circles around in the same old place, and as a result, you can't find any way out. So you have to contemplate down through many levels. It's like using a cloth to filter things. If you use a coarse weave, you won't catch much of anything. You have to use a fine weave to filter down to the deeper levels and penetrate into the deeper levels by contemplating over and over again through level after level. That's why there are so many levels to being mindful and discerning, filtering on into the details. And this is why examining and becoming fully aware of your own inner character is so important. The practice of meditation is nothing but catching sight of self-deceptions, to see how they infiltrate into the deepest levels, and how even the most blatant levels fool us right before our very eyes. If you can't catch sight of the deceits and deceptions of the self, your practice won't lead to release from suffering. It will simply keep you deluded into thinking that everything is you and yours. To practice in line with the Buddha's teachings is to go against the flow. Every living being, deep down inside, wants pleasure on the physical level, and then on the higher and more subtle levels of feeling, such as the types of concentration that are addicted to feelings of peace and respite. This is why you have to investigate into feeling, so that you can let go of it and thus snuff out craving. Through being fully aware of feeling as it actually is, free from any self, in line with its nature, unentangled, uninvolved. This is what snuffs out the virus of craving, so that ultimately it vanishes without a trace. There are many layers of self-deception. The more you practice and the more you investigate things, the less you feel like claiming to know. Instead, you'll simply see the harm of your own many-faceted ignorance and foolishness. Your examination of the viruses in the mind gets more and more subtle. Before, you didn't know, so you took your views to be knowledge because you thought you knew. But actually, these things aren't real knowledge. They're the type of understanding that comes from labels. Still, we think they're knowledge, and we think we know. This, in and of itself, is a very intricate self-deception. So you have to keep watch on these things to keep contemplating them. Sometimes they fool us right before our eyes. That's when it really gets bad, because we don't know that we've got ourselves fooled, and instead think that we're people who know. We can deal thoroughly with this or that topic, but our knowledge is simply the memory of labels. We think that labels are discernment, or thought fabrications are discernment, or the awareness of sensory consciousness is discernment. And so we get these things all mixed up. As a result, we become enamored with all the bits of knowledge that slip in and fashion the mind, which are simply the illusions within awareness. As for genuine awareness, there's very little of it, while deceptive awareness has us surrounded on all sides. We thus have to contemplate and investigate so as to see through these illusions in awareness. This is what will enable us to read the mind. If your awareness goes out, don't follow it out. Stop and turn inward instead. Whatever slips in to fashion the mind, you have to be wise to it. You can't forbid it, for it's something natural, and you shouldn't try to close off the mind too much. Simply keep watch on awareness to see how far it will go, how true or false it is, how it disbands and then arises again. You have to watch it over and over again. Simply watching in this way will enable you to read yourself, to know cause and effect within yourself, and to contemplate yourself. This is what will make your mindfulness and discernment more and more skillful. If you don't practice in this way, the mind will be dark. It may get a little empty, a little still, and you'll decide that's plenty good enough. But if you look at the Buddha's teachings, you'll find that no matter what sort of correct knowledge he gained, he was never willing to stop there. He always said, "There's more." To begin with, he developed mindfulness and clear comprehension in every activity. But then he said, "There's more to do, further to go." As for us, we're always ready to brag. We work at developing this or that factor for a while, and then say we already know all about it and don't have to develop it any further. As a result, the principles in our awareness go soft because of our boastfulness and pride.